All that glitters is not gold. That line derived from a Will Shakespeare play is one that still holds strong in today's society, and especially in motorsports. One day you're on top of the world, and the next, you're struggling to find a seat in a half-decent car. There have been many instances across many disciplines of racing when a driver has had a stunning junior career with a surefire path to top-flight greatness, only for that path to be riddled and broken apart by a flurry of external factors. It is motorsport after all. Nothing's fair, and nothing ever will be. This was the fate that met today's protagonist, a driver that wowed many in his junior career and got a drive with a proper team only for his career in the top flight to be severely cut short. One would expect it to be a long-lasting partnership, with wins and championships on the horizon, but it didn't even result in him lasting one full season. Motorsport is a cruel world, something this video will enlighten you of if you weren't already aware. So without further ado, my name is Intern, I talk wheel, and this is Racing Isn't Fair, Oliver Askew's stint at McLaren. I've got so much. I've got so much. I've got so much. Act 1. Humble Beginnings. Our story begins here in Laguna Seca. The year is 2019 and the Indy Lights season has just come to an end, and they've just crowned their new champion, Oliver Askew, a 22-year-old American Swede who just came off of a 7-pole, 7-win season with Andretti Autosport to win the Indy Lights title in his first attempt. This wasn't Askew's first taste of championship gold either. He scored victory in the 2016 Mazda Road to Indy shootout. He followed that up by winning the USF 2000 title in 2017, and that coupled with his Indy Lights triumph added to an impressive junior resume. The Indy Lights title came with enough funding for 3 IndyCar races in 2020, including the elusive Indy 500. All had been on the up for Askew, and that elusive contract offer finally fell in his lap, an offer that came from the brand new Arrow McLaren SP team. Askew was chosen to drive the number 7 car for the 2020 season, alongside teammate in the 5 Pato O'Ward. The rebranded McLaren team that was previously Schmidt-Peterson Honda had just given Askew what he needed, a full-time ride for him to prove himself over the course of a season. Now was his chance to show the world of IndyCar what he could do. Act 2. Oliver's Big Break. Oliver Askew's McLaren tenure began under unusual conditions. The world had shut down due to the spread of COVID-19, and the season did not get underway until June. The 2020 season opened in Texas, and due to COVID restrictions, practice qualifying and the race all took place on the same day. McLaren struggled in qualifying with O'Ward and Askew lining up P18 and P20 respectively. Askew did not let that deter him, however, and drove a mature race around Texas Motor Speedway to finish his IndyCar debut in 9th, 11 spots higher than where he started, as well as beating teammate O'Ward who finished in 12th. Race 2 at the Indianapolis Road Course saw Askew pick up where he left off, with a brilliant qualifying effort of 5th place in just his second race. Unfortunately, his race did not go as smoothly. He got loose exiting a corner and crashed out of the race midway. Harder times would come as Askew would have 2 nightmare races at Road America, with his higher finish of the 2 races being 15th, while teammate Pato O'Ward scored his first IndyCar pole in race 2 and battled for the win against Felix Rosenqvist. 3 bad finishes in a row were a bad look on the rookie, and he needed more than ever to have a clean race. And that's exactly what he got and then some. He had his best IndyCar performance to date in the first of the Iowa doubleheaders, finishing 3rd to secure his first ever podium, followed by a 6th place finish in race 2. With 3 top 10s and a podium in his first 6 starts in IndyCar, it seemed as though Oliver Askew's tenure at McLaren was off to a good start. However, once we got to the crown jewel of the calendar, something big happened. Act 3. The Turning Point. The 2020 Indianapolis 500 was next on the calendar, and what should have been the biggest day of Oliver Askew's racing career ended up also being the one that impacted his career the most to date. After qualifying in 21st, Oliver Askew's Indy 500 came to an abrupt end on a lap 92 restart. He lost control of his car after being disoriented due to Connor Daly spinning ahead of him, and his car smacked the inside wall at massive speed. This would be the hardest impact Askew had ever suffered in his racing career. His performances dipped compared to the potential he showed earlier in the season, as he failed to score so much as a top 12 in his next 4 starts. It was revealed that he had not been medically cleared to compete in rounds 12 and 13 at Indianapolis. The Indy 500 crash left Askew with sleeping issues, headaches, and dizziness, all of which were concussion-like symptoms that went undiagnosed for 4 straight races. It was a scary situation, and he had to be replaced by Helio Castroneves for the 2 rounds. Askew returned for the season finale in St. Petersburg, where he finished in P16, but before then, it had already been announced publicly that he had been dropped by Arrow McLaren SP for the following season, while his medical clearance status for St. Petersburg was still up in the air. Act 4. The Aftermath. Just like that, Askew and McLaren as a partnership was no more. No contract extension to see if he'd be back on form after an off-season of recovery. No post-season evaluation to see if he was good enough for another go. Askew was gone before the season ended and before he was even cleared to come back and race that season. He even told the race in an interview that fans shouldn't have been surprised if this marked the end of his entire IndyCar career. Luckily, it wasn't exactly the end. He returned to Arrow McLaren SP midway through 2021 to relieve the very driver that replaced him, Felix Rosenqvist, after he suffered a terrible crash in Detroit. He again did more reserve driving duties that year, filling in for the injured youngster Rinus VeeKay at Ed Carpenter Racing. He drove for his 3rd team in one season at Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, hopping in their number 45 Honda to compete in the last 3 rounds of the year, and impressed many in Laguna Seca by bringing the team their only Fast 6 appearance on a road or street course of the entire season in qualifying. Unfortunately, all these performances weren't enough to secure Askew a full-time seat for 2022, and he had to settle for a reserve driver role at Andretti Autosport. He did manage to get a full-time seat with Andretti in Formula E, along with his reserve driving duties. This video serves as a cruel reminder of just how rough and unforgiving the world of motorsport is. No matter how hard you work, things can slip away from you at any given moment for any given reason. And when you're kicked out of the plane mid-air, things that would normally parachute your fall, like a popular last name or a wealthy sponsorship backing, aren't there to save you. Oliver Askew didn't have any of these to serve as his parachute, just talent, which in a perfect world would be enough. This isn't a perfect world, however, and what eventually seemed like a potential legacy lineup at AMSP with 2 bright young stars quickly faded into a reality where Askew, a USF 2000 and Indy Lights champion, has still to date of me recording this video not completed a full season of IndyCar. The raw talent was evident. He had a podium to his name. He had Fast 6 in just his 2nd career start. Askew had the makings of a driver who could have made his mark on a series like IndyCar for years to come. But whether it was because of the injuries or just a brighter looking prospect somewhere else in free agency, We'll never know. McLaren, despite signing him fresh off an Indy Lights championship, just weren't interested in finding out whether or not their young talent could have improved in year 2 after recovering from his concussion-like symptoms, and it seems neither was the rest of the grid. But one thing's for sure, Oliver Askew isn't finished in racing. He's still young, he's still great, and all we as fans can hope for is that one day an IndyCar team out there will take a chance on him once more and give him a proper opportunity to show the world what watching this video has probably shown you, that Oliver Askew is a quick and talented racing driver. Motorsport isn't fair. The story of Oliver Askew is just one of the countless that have taken place in the history of this thing that we call racing. My name is Intern, I talk wheel, and thanks for watching.